Welcome back. Now that you've had some practice identifying thesis statements that are too broad, we need to learn how to make them more specific without making them too specific. We need some revision strategies. Strategy 1. Replace pronouns with specific nouns. Watch out for pronouns in your thesis statements. No one is saying you can't have any pronouns in your thesis statement ever, but pronouns are inherently less specific than nouns, so they might raise a red flag. Let's say you're writing an essay for government class, analyzing the Supreme Court's decision in Santa Fe Independent School District v. Jane Doe from the year 2000, in which the court ruled that a public school cannot sponsor religious activities, including student-led prayers at school events. And let's say your thesis statement goes something like this. I think they got it wrong on this one. After all, it doesn't hurt anyone if they do it before a football game, a graduation ceremony, or any other important school event. Look at all the pronouns here. Big red flag. In your mind, this thesis statement made perfect sense, but put yourself in the reader's shoes. Imagine that your reader isn't part of your class and hasn't even read the essay prompt. If this thesis statement is the only thing your reader sees, would the focus of your essay be clear? Who got what wrong? And what is the it that someone might want to do before a football game? The solution here is simple. Replace pronouns in your thesis statement with specific nouns. In Santa Fe Independent School District v. Jane Doe, the U.S. Supreme Court got the ruling wrong. After all, no one's rights are violated if a student voluntarily decides to say a public prayer before a football game, a graduation ceremony, or any other important school event. Strategy 2. Try to use action verbs instead of be verbs. Be verbs are the least specific verbs in the English language. So if your thesis statement has a be verb in it, chances are it could be more specific. Here's an example. Public prayers are not appropriate. The are here might be a red flag. It makes the sentence a little vague and more than a little boring. Instead of saying what the topic is, ask yourself what the topic does. So, if you want to claim that school prayers are inappropriate, ask yourself what these inappropriate prayers do. Public prayers in schools violate the rights of non-religious students. This is better. It could still use some work, which leads us to strategy number 3. You can often make a vague thesis better by answering one or more qualifying questions. When, why, which ones, for whom, how or how much or how often. Let's try it on that last example. Public prayers violate the rights of non-religious students. When? Public prayers during school-sponsored events violate the rights of non-religious students. How or why? Public prayers during school-sponsored events violate the rights of non-religious students by forcing them to participate involuntarily in a religious activity. Which ones? While out-loud prayer at a private religious school makes perfect sense, public prayers at events sponsored by state schools violate the rights of non-religious students by forcing them to participate involuntarily in a religious activity. This thesis statement is far more specific, and it will be a little easier to defend. But remember, we have to be careful not to make our thesis statement too specific. Let's review an ineffective example from our last lesson. Police should be required to get a warrant to search a suspect's cell phone because, for example, that cell phone could contain pictures of the suspect with a girlfriend he has tried to keep secret, which would be a violation of his right to privacy. The problem here is the specific example. Strategy number 4. To avoid overly specific thesis statements, save specific examples for the body of your essay. The example in this thesis statement could be a great one to include in a body paragraph to prove a slightly broader claim. But if you put that specific example in the thesis statement itself, it seriously limits the scope of your essay, which will make it more difficult to write. Let's review. Strategy number 1, replace pronouns with specific nouns. Strategy number 2, use action verbs instead of be verbs. Strategy number 3, Answer qualifying questions to narrow your claim. Strategy number 4, save specific examples for the body of your essay. Now it's your turn. Let's go to work.